All right, welcome back. Hope you're having a great week. Today we're continuing our RBT exam practice question series. Where we're going to the next set of practice questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. If you're looking for our proven study materials, please check out btexamreview.com. We offer 3 practice exams, a task list study guide, and of course, our famous combo pack. When you do pass, please let us know so we can include you in our Sunday shout out video. We also have a YouTube membership if you'd like to support us further. Other than that, keep the questions coming. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. Question 1. It is determined that a client only wants their iPad as a reinforcer. If you wanted to attempt to turn praise into a reinforcer, what would be the proper way to go about doing that? By now, if you've been studying a while, this should be a pretty straightforward question. You should immediately start thinking of pairing. And why is that? Well, we know the iPad functions as a reinforcer. Most kids, iPad's a strong reinforcer. But what we want to do is create other reinforcers, especially reinforcers that we can generalize, like praise or maybe tokens or money. So in this case, we have the iPad, and now we want to make praise a reinforcer. What's the proper way to go about doing that? Well, we know we have to pair the iPad with praise. So let's look for an answer along those lines. A, continue giving the client the iPad for reinforcement, but increase the response requirement. Nothing about A is going to make praise into a reinforcer. If anything, we're increasing the response requirement, making it harder to gain reinforcement in general. We need to find an answer that's going to pair iPad and praise. B, only give the client praise for engaging in the target responses. Well, praise is not yet a reinforcer, so praising the client has no effect quite yet. We need to combine it with the iPad. C, give the iPad and praise together when the client reaches the response requirement. There we go. Now we are pairing the iPad and the praise, the reinforcement and the praise, reinforcement and the praise. And the idea is eventually the praise will take on some of those reinforcing properties. So we can use praise as more of a generalized reinforcer. And to do that, we have to pair iPad and praise together constantly. And then D, give praise half the time and iPad the other half of the time. Again, these things need to occur together. We have to use the iPad as the catalyst to create praise as a reinforcer. And to do that, we're going to pair them together. We're going to deliver them together when the client reaches the response requirement. Soto is a huge Los Angeles Lakers fan. He thinks the team is going to be very good this year. He bets his friend that the Lakers are going to win over 50 games. His friend accepts the bet because he thinks that won't happen. How will they measure the outcome of the bet? Measurement question. Think continuous, think discontinuous. Always think along the lines of what measurements do I know and what's going to apply in the situation. So in this case, we know that Soto and his friend are betting on the amount of games the Lakers might win, and the total is 50. So how are we going to measure whether or not they won 50 games? Well, this is pretty straightforward, right? Because all we're going to do at the end of the year is count up how many games they won. It's a very straightforward count measurement. So when we use a count measurement, using A, frequency. We're not using B, duration. We're not timing anything regarding their wins. We're not using C, latency. We're not measuring time in between SDs and responses. And we're not using interval recording. Okay, we're measuring every instance of a win simply by counting. So all Soto is doing is saying, I think the Lakers' frequency of wins will be over 50 games. His friend says, I think their frequency of wins will be under 50 games. At the end of the year, they'll count them up. That's how they're going to measure the outcome. The answer is A, using frequency. After eating 15 spicy wings on Hot Ones, Tyler Durden experiences severe heartburn. Tyler takes a Tums, which clears up the heartburn issues. Clearing up the heartburn functions as what? All right. Reinforcement punishment question. How do we approach it? First, we ask ourselves, in the future, what did the behavior do? Increase, decrease? Well, if we look at our question, we're not really sure. However, if the Tums clears up the heartburn issues, then most likely in the future, Tyler will continue taking Tums whenever he gets severe heartburn. So we can, based on the information given, say that Tums, that behavior is going to increase in the future. Because our ABC, our antecedent, is severe heartburn. Our response is Tyler takes a Tums. And our consequence is the heartburn goes away. So we know we're reinforcing the behavior. Now, is something being added as a consequence or removed? Well, if the response is to take Tums and the consequence is the heartburn goes away, well, the heartburn's been removed. Tyler's escaped from the heartburn. This is going to be negative. We have reinforcement and we're removing something leading to an increase in the behavior in the future. That, of course, is negative reinforcement. Negative reinforcement, probably the most difficult behavior question you might experience, right? The mosquito bite question is very difficult. You have to be very careful and you have to identify, okay, what is my antecedent? What is my behavior? And what's the consequence? What is the consequence is the question. Don't confuse the response, okay, for the consequence. Remember, reinforcement and punishments are consequences. So our antecedent is severe heartburn. Our response is taking a Tums. The consequence is the heartburn is removed. That is negative reinforcement. On Glennie's first day of school, he stands just outside of the classroom. He does not want to move, so his mom lightly touches him on the back to nudge him forward. As Glennie starts to move, Glennie's mom removes her touch. What type of prompting is this? All right. Immediately, you should be thinking, well, this is physical prompting. Okay. So some sort of physical prompting, right? She's lightly touching him on the back to nudge him. But we see that she immediately removes that touch. So she's using just as much physical prompting as necessary and then quickly removing the touch. So what type of prompting is this? Is it A, modeling? Is Glennie's mom modeling for Glennie? Well, no, she's not showing Glennie how to walk in the classroom, right? She's using that physical prompting to guide him through. Is she using least to most? Remember, in least to most, you give the client an opportunity to exhibit the behavior without prompt, and then you start with the least intrusive prompt possible. Physical prompting is not the least intrusive prompt possible, so it can't be least to most. What about positional? Positional acts on the stimuli of the stimulus. It's moving stimuli around. She's not doing that. She's acting on Glennie's response. So it has to be graduated guidance. All graduated guidance is a type of physical prompting where you're using just as much physical prompting as necessary and then fading immediately. So whenever you see any sort of prompt procedure where we jump to physical prompting and then only use as much as necessary and then fade quickly, think graduated guidance. So what type of prompting is she using? Graduated guidance. Nolan wants to be a Broadway star. He works endlessly on hitting every note in the songs he needs to learn for rehearsal. He asks his girlfriend to praise him each time he hits more notes than his last highest attempt. His girlfriend is doing what to Nolan's behavior? This is a tricky question. It requires some thought and some analysis and a little thinking on your part, right? So what do we know? Well, we're looking at the girlfriend, okay, and what she's doing to Nolan's behavior. No, Nolan wants to be a star. He works endlessly on hitting notes, rehearsal. His girlfriend is now required to praise him each time he hits more notes than his last highest attempt. So what does that sound like? He needs to get to all the notes correct. Each time he gets closer, because he's hitting more notes, she's praising him. Only when she praises him, only when he goes higher, does she praise him. So what is his girlfriend doing? A, shaping. Shaping is reinforcing approximations of behavior as you get closer to our terminal behavior. It's exactly what's going on here, right? The approximations of behavior are higher and higher attempts, moving closer and closer to being perfect on the high notes or hitting all the notes. So the girlfriend is shaping Nolan's behavior. Do we stop there? No, we look at all of our answer choices. B, imitating. The girlfriend's clearly not imitating Nolan's behavior, right? She's not attempting to sing. She's not punishing Nolan's behavior. She's praising and reinforcing it. And she's not probing. She's not looking to see how good he is. She's simply reinforcing closer and closer approximations of this final terminal behavior. The girlfriend is shaping Nolan's behavior. Your BCBA designs a time sampling measurement system. Each interval is 2 minutes long. You're asked to use a momentary time sampling. What are you looking for in the client's behavior in order for it to count as a response? Okay, we have a discontinuous measurement procedure here. Specifically, we're looking at time sampling, momentary time sampling. What do we know about momentary time sampling? No, with momentary time sampling, we are looking at the end of each interval if the behavior occurring or is it not? So in this case, your interval is 2 minutes long. What are you looking for to count as a response? Well, we need to see, is that behavior occurring at 2 minutes or is it not? So every 2 minutes, we're looking up, is the behavior occurring? Is it not? So A, the behavior should occur the entire 2 minutes. What is that considered? That is considered whole interval recording, right? We're looking at the entire interval. Does the behavior occur the entire interval? Yes or no? B, the behavior should occur at any point during the 2 minutes. That's partial interval, right? We look at the 2 minutes. Does the behavior occur at all? C, the behavior should occur at 2 minutes. Yes. In the moment, at 2 minutes, does that behavior occur? Then every 2 minutes from there on out, does the behavior occur in the moment? If it does, it's a response. If it doesn't, it's not a response. D, cannot determine. Nope, we have plenty of information to determine if it's a response or not. All we're looking for is in the moment. Each 2 minutes, did it occur? Did it not? So what are you looking for in the client's behavior? In order for it to count as a response, C, the behavior should occur at 2 minutes. During an indirect assessment, a BCBA is interviewing the parents of a new client. Parents report that the client cries constantly throughout the day. The BCBA measures crying over a 3-hour session and determines the client cried 20 times in total. What was the rate of crying? All right, easy question, okay? Measurement questions, rate questions, make them easy, okay? Study until you understand these fully. These are easy points. We're looking at rate. What is rate? Rate is simply frequency over time. All you need to do in rate questions is identify your frequency and then divide that by your time. That's your ratio. So let's find our frequency. Well, it says the BCBA measures crying over a 3-hour session. The client cried 20 times. So our frequency is 20. We're now going to divide that by our time, which is 3 hours. So if we divide 20 divided by 3, what do we get? We get 6.6 times per hour. So our rate. All there is to rate questions. 20 times is not your rate. That's your frequency. All we did was take our frequency of 20, divide it by time, which is 3, and we get 6.6 times per hour. Make sure you understand how to find rate, how to find average, how to find totals. These are easy points exam. Prior to his doctor's visit, Albert, a resident of an adult home, would always get an extra piece of cake at lunch from the lunch lady. However, after the doctor's visit, the group home informs the lunch lady to no longer give Albert dessert. What intervention is the group home implementing? Okay, so what do we know? We know previously Albert would go to the lunch lady and get an extra piece of cake. So his typical chain would be lunchtime, walk to lunch lady, receive extra cake, right? Receive that reinforcement for going to lunch lady. However, after the visit, the group home says, do not give Albert dessert anymore, effectively withholding reinforcement. So when we withhold reinforcement, what intervention is that? A, non-contingent reinforcement. Well, non-contingent reinforcement is obviously not withholding anything, right? With non-contingent reinforcement, we're providing reinforcement with no stipulations, right? It's an antecedent intervention. There's no requirement to gain that reinforcement. But in this case, we're withholding reinforcement. So B, extinction is what we're looking for. With extinction, you're withholding reinforcement from a previously reinforced behavior. Previously, Albert will walk to the lunch lady, get extra cake. Now, Albert walks to the lunch lady, he does not get reinforcement. It isn't negative reinforcement because we're not removing anything and increasing a behavior. And it isn't negative punishment because we're not removing anything. We're withholding. That's the key, okay? Removing first, withholding. In this case, what intervention is the group home implementing? B, extinction. What is the primary difference between a bribe and a contingency? This is a very important question, very important thing to understand if you ever are to explain ABA to anybody, especially stakeholders. A lot of people say, well, you use bribes. We do not use bribes. A bribe is when you give a reinforcement before the target behavior occurs. A contingency is when you give a reinforcement after the target behavior occurs. Make sure you understand that. A contingency is an if-then statement. If you do this, then you get reinforcement. Bribe is, here's reinforcement, now go and do this. So what is the primary difference? A, there is no difference. Nope, not true. There is definitely a difference. B, a contingency delivers reinforcement after the response, while a bribe delivers it before. Okay, so a contingency delivers reinforcement after the response. If you do this, then you get reinforcement. A bribe is the opposite. B looks pretty good. C, a bribe delivers reinforcement after the response, while a contingency delivers it before. It's not true. It's actually the other way around. So B is still our best answer. D, a bribe is the punishment version of a contingency. A bribe isn't a punishment. It's just not the proper way to implement. So what is the primary difference between a bribe and a contingency? B, a contingency delivers reinforcement after the response, while a bribe delivers it before. All right, thanks for watching. Please check out btexamreview.com. Like, subscribe, join, questions, comments, let us know. Work hard, study hard. See you soon.